Welcome to the Ignited Recovery Podcast, a new way forward for anyone looking for answers but feeling left out. If you've been searching for empowerment, triumph, and purpose, you've found them right here. You won't hear the same solutions, and you're not going to have any excuses to fall back on, because Ignited Recovery allows heroes to rise and become their best selves. I'm Dr. Adi Jaffe, and I can't wait to be your guide on this journey. Are you ready to become an ignited hero? Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Ignited Recovery Secrets Podcast. I'm Adi Jaffe. So excited to have you here with me today. And what we're doing here is we're once again giving you a behind the scenes look, kind of like opening up the curtain of what happens in the Ignited Hero program and letting you in on a conversation that I had with our users there in our Tuesday live group that I've been running since 2017. Love this group. It's always amazing. We've got dozens of people in there, and we get to talk about a lot of really amazing things. I got to tell you, though, for this one, first of all, there's a trigger warning. I share very openly about my own drinking. That's not something we shy away from at Ignited, right? One of our mottos is stop trying to get sober, start living the life you want to. But I know that can be triggering for people, so I want to be very, very clear about that from the beginning. If you get really triggered around people talking explicitly about their drinking, this is not the episode for you. And again, I share really personally about something that I think is very important, not just for recovery, but your overall functioning in life. And we miss, and some of us miss it long term, and that's getting to know yourself really, really well. That's a first principle oftentimes in Ignited Recovery, honest exploration. But I talk about it in a more nuanced way and really talk about how to make sure that you put this practice in place long term in order to help you meet not just your recovery goals, but build the life that you want and you deserve. So that's what today's about. I'm going to just kind of slide right in there and you'll start hearing the conversation that I had with our users just a couple of weeks ago. At the end of this, I give them an exercise that we actually did live in the group. I want you to do the exercise for yourself. It'll be incredibly powerful for you. And I'll come back in the end to summarize it so you can make sure you know what you're supposed to be doing here. This came up the other day for us, and I wanted to bring it up because we talk about it quite a bit in the platform, especially in the new Hero 2.0, although it was in Hero 1.0 as well. And so I'll start out by kind of explaining we've been pretty active now that things have gradually opened up after vaccines for our family, et cetera. We were able to travel a couple of times. And so we were doing that. And then this last weekend was my mom's in town. It was my wife's birthday, and we celebrated that on Friday. And then on Saturday, we had a friend's shower here. So it was like her wedding shower was hosted. And I did great Friday. It was amazing. I had a blast. All of our friends were over. People stayed until about midnight. And I did what in our household is called pulling in a D, which was leaving pretty much everybody outside hanging out and going into the room. And I watched a little TV show and then went to bed. By 11:45, I was out. My wife walked into the room around the time that I passed out. That's Friday. Saturday comes around, and it was like this flip, right? It was from the party Friday, their party planner for the wedding shower, whatever, showed up and was setting everything up. And by 10:30, maybe 11 a.m., all the friends started showing up. I think at noon is when they started the shower. I took the kids. Like I mentioned, my mom was in town, and we went out to some park, came back, blah, blah, blah. Later that night, I was done. Like I was done talking. I wasn't really able to process a lot of information. I just needed for everything to go really, really smoothly to lead to the end of the night so that I could just be okay. Now, you guys know I'm not 100% sober, so in full transparency, I'll share the rest of it. My wife's birthday, I think I had 2, maybe 3 drinks the entire night, and then I just didn't want to drink anymore. That sort of has happened to me, period, for the last decade. I'll let you know. At some point, my body kind of regulated to a new normal. I only drink a few times a week now, whereas even 4, 5, 6 years ago, I drank 4 or 5 days a week. Now it's like 2 to 3, and on the days where I drink, my body just kind of doesn't want to even finish that third drink. And the same exact thing happened, even though it was my wife's birthday and it was a party and everybody was drinking. Somebody bought one of those really, really nice bottles of tequila, like a $250 bottle of tequila. The joke is that New Year's Eve, somebody brought us a similar one. I didn't get to drink one drink out of it because half of it was done by New Year's hitting, but midnight. And then like within a week, the rest of the people who've come over to our house finished the rest of that bottle. Same exact thing happened with this bottle. Still haven't tasted that tequila. Bottle is gone. And the reason I'm telling you that is I used to drink whenever I would drink, like 3, 4, 5 drinks was kind of like what I wanted to drink anyway. There was no reason to just have a drink. And I'm kind of letting you know that over time, especially if you take breaks in the middle, over time things can re-regulate. Long story short, didn't drink much that day. Next day, at the shower, I didn't drink at all. I didn't have a single sip of alcohol the entire day. By the evening, I was kind of done. And the reason I'm telling this entire long story is my wife turned to me. She said, have you done a personality test? Like, do you know where your introvert, extrovert line goes? And I said, no, but pretty sure I'm sort of like right around the middle, maybe leaning towards introvert. And so it started this whole discussion. And what reminded me of was just how important it is to know yourself and not act based on what everybody around you wants your life to look like. Right? I'll say that again. Just how important it is to actually know yourself and not live a life that is simply based on what everybody around you wants you to do at any given point in time. Because here's the thing. My wife would have loved it if I stayed out till midnight that night and kind of just like was the life of the party. And in a place in the back of my head, I know I've mentioned this on here before, I kind of wish I was that guy too. The next day when everybody was, I don't even know how many bottles of champagne were opened at our house that day, but I know like 2 cases showed up a few weeks ago for this wedding shower. There were like 50 women at our house, right? For this wedding shower. Most of the bottles were drank. I didn't have a sip. And I came in and out, but I was very conscientious of the fact that that's not somewhere I wanted to hang out, especially given the night before. And by the end of that second day, with my mom in town and the family, the kids that I was taking care of during the day for this and everything else that was going on, I was just done. And so, even though she didn't probably mean it this way, Sophie asking me, are you more an introvert or extrovert? And do you know? Was really her way of saying like, man, you really had a hard time socializing so much this weekend, right? That's like really what she was saying. And the old version of me would have felt like I had to defend myself. The current version, he was like, yeah, I think I lean on introvert. I love people. I think we mentioned this in the last month or so, at least one other time. I love people, but I need them to leave within a few hours. And so I redid my my 16 personality test. And what I realized was what's amazing is it changed from the last time I did it. Which is not really surprising if you think about it, right? We see ourselves as the same person all the time because you have your feelings and you have your point of view and you're in your world. And so it seems pretty consistent to you. But we change. Our desires change and our needs change and our feelings about things change. So it's not a massive surprise that this thing would change. But what's amazing about it is one of the things that changed is I went from an E to an I. I actually shifted a little bit. So I was probably at least a little right, which is I used to be probably more extroverted. Like I probably am near the middle, but I used to be more extroverted and I've leaned more towards introversion recently. And so there are 2 pieces that I want to talk about here because we mention this all the time: biology, psychology, environment, spirituality. I think it's really, really important that not only you do the work on the front end to understand yourself, but you don't stop doing the work and you keep doing it. My new one is INTP. Nothing else changed. The rest of them stayed exactly the same, but I've started leaning more introverted. Now these guys give them names, logician versus the assertive debater, but I don't care about that stuff. This to me is just an inquiry tool, right? It's just a way to understand myself, but I've gone from an ENTP to an INTP. Now, does this mean I will forever be leaning towards introversion? No. No, circumstances could change again and I can lean back towards the extroverted part. But how nice is it that I can do a little semi-objective test every once in a while and just kind of assess where I'm at. We're just not great at being able to see inside. We talk about that and we do some of that in the mindfulness work that we do, right? Becoming the observer. But some of the things about becoming an observer is using tools that help you observe better. And so what I'd love to talk about here today is, first of all, for those of you who have done personality tests or who have been part of things of that nature, and maybe were surprised by the results you found, right? You thought you were a certain kind of person, or you thought you needed to be somebody or a specific characteristic, or that there were specific elements to how you presented yourself that you believed you needed to hold on to, defend. And then you because we give you a few different personality tests in the platform, you took them and you found out that things were actually a little bit different than you imagined. That's one version that I think would be really interesting. And then the second one is people who either haven't taken a personality test at all, or people who know that they've changed either because you've taken a test or because you used to know what you were in certain ways and certain characteristics, and you don't feel like you fit that anymore. And the reason I think that's important is, I mentioned it very, very early in the beginning, the life you create has to fit what your personality is. It just does. I mean, it sounds so simple to say. How do we reduce our initial activation level? And how do we increase our threshold? If not, by making sure that the life we live, the physical environment, the psychology of it, the social relationships we have, literally the bed we wake up, every element of the music and the TV shows that we take on are such a great fit for who we are that they don't stress us out. That's it. Could I have stayed out at the party, at Sophie's birthday party, until 1 a.m.? I could have. Would that have made the last 2 hours of the day better, worse, and the next morning would it have made it better or worse? Probably would have made it worse, right? Now I can see that, and so I'm pretty dogmatic now about holding on to what I need. But how many of us have done the opposite and said, oh shit, really want to go home? How many people have been like, I really want to go home, but it's kind of expected of me to stay here, so I'll be here for another 3 hours, and then regretted it while you're doing it, and certainly regretted it the next day. And I think I'm not going out on a limb here, but how many times are you like, all right, fuck it, I'm just going to have one more drink, and if I have another drink, I can stand these people for another 3 hours. You know what I'm talking about. But just pay attention to what we're doing. We're already acting in a way that is not congruent with who we want to be. And in order to do that, we do something else that is not congruent with who we want to be in order to deal with the stress from the first thing we did. When it would have been so much easier to say, you know what? I love you. And this was my wife. Love you. We've been celebrating with these people since 3 p.m. 8 hours is what I got. I'm good. I'm going to go to bed. You do what you need to do, right? Here's the beauty, right? The whole F-shame thing. I didn't need to tell my wife, hey, you got to shut this party down. I've had enough. No, I need to own my version of it. My version was, you guys hang out. I'm going to go shower. I'm going to go watch a TV show I really want. And by doing that, we reduce conflict. I didn't need to prove to her that she needed to be more like me, and she didn't need to prove to me that I need to be more like her. Although you could tell from the have you turned more introverted question that maybe she wishes that I was more extroverted, but that's okay. I get it. And And we got what I wanted. We got what she wanted. We all got to enjoy ourselves. All right. I hope you really were able to enjoy that. That is one of those conversations we have every week. And then we dove in deeply with the rest of the group, trying to understand which kind of people were in the group, right? Are there people there who are regularly analyzing their personality and seeing changes come up as they adjust their life to it? Are there people who had done a personality assessment at some point in the past and then just assume they're going to be that person forever? And maybe there have been some changes. Or are there people who just have never done a personality assessment, don't know anything about it, and therefore don't really have a deep understanding of what they want and what they're looking for in life, and maybe oftentimes, unfortunately, then have ended up in a way of living their own life that is not really copacetic. It's not congruent with the way that their body, their brain, their deepest core desires and needs are actually served well. I want you to do this exercise for yourself. Which one of these three people are you? Have you never done one of these assessments and you have no idea what your personality is like at this moment? Have you done it before a while ago and don't know if it's changed right now? Or are you doing them regularly? Depending on which one you are, go back and listen to the recommendations in terms of what it is that you need to do. We'll even give you a link to the 16 personality test. It's a very easy, widely available Myers-Briggs variation. Enjoy. Put this into practice in your life. It will make a difference. Have a great weekend. Thank you for tuning in to the Ignited Heroes Recovery Podcast. I really hope you found the information here useful and that we'll see you back here next week. And look, I want to make sure that this podcast is the most useful it can be for you, so please let me know by emailing info@ignited.com if there are any specific topics or questions you'd like to have addressed. As usual, if you like this episode, I would love for you to leave us a 5-star review and rating. Thanks, and see you next week.